You're listening to the Cast of Champions on the Bold Castify Radio Network. How y'all doing today? This is Mark at BCB Markpedia.
This is Robert Slacking Kraken. I think it was a little 8-bit Bray Wyatt, if I'm not mistaken.
Broken Out in Love. Yes, sir.
Never knew the title.
By Mark Crozier and the Rails. Mark Crozier, a member of the Jesus and Mary chain, is what he was best known for.
All right, some Jesus action.
And you're listening to the Cast of Champions. But how I know that was my musical knowledge. Thank you. Jesus and Mary chain are actually good.
All right. Okay. Jesus, Jesus, we got it.
It's not a Jesus band, but we
his
digress.
name's Jesus. I mean, that's why it's called him Jesus. I don't know, man.
We'll digress from that. You got any news in the world of wrestling this week, Mr. Newdecker?
I got a couple weird things. This one thing I just read about was Cam Newton is sued for allegedly trashing Beverly Hills Mansion following his Super Bowl loss. It's the husband of Stacy Keibler. I don't know if anyone remembers her. He's being sued over trashing it. Apparently, he got too upset after the loss. Another really fun thing is Ric Flair
threw a temper tantrum.
Well, I mean, the way he played, I can't blame him. But Ric Flair stated that he had relations with Halle Berry.
Apparently, Halle Berry rode Space Mountain.
Yeah, she's denying it. She's saying she's never slept with Ric Flair, which, of course, the internet has blown up with. You stayed up all night long. Woo. So it's pretty interesting. Eric Rowan's out for the next 6 months with a rotary cuff surgery.
Well, I guess Bray Wyatt won't have his heavy.
Well, he never was a heavy. He was more this dude with a long red beard that had a cool mask.
And that could do a sidekick.
Yeah.
And it was actually rather athletic for his size. I'll give him that much.
Yeah, but he
is vanilla, though.
He's more the vanilla. He could not get over on a wet paper sack. I mean, that's just
which is sad because he does have some talent. It's not that he's a no talent, hack.
Jamie Noble, as far as I know, he's recovering. I don't know if anyone really heard about this, but he was stabbed outside of his home after a road rage incident. He stated he was tired after a long road trip. He said he might have fallen into another lane. He got home. Some gentleman came out. He got stabbed in the back.
So a legitimate backstabber.
Yeah. Collapsed lung. He got cut up. The only reason they did not kill him, they're about to slice his throat, but his girlfriend came out and they ran away. As far as I know, he's recovering, but really close call and some craziness. Alberto Del Rio.
No showing the AAA event?
Well, because he was also stabbed.
Welp.
So, he was stabbed, I believe, at an airport. I'm not quite sure where it was, but there's images online. He's contacted AAA about what's going on. Even offered police report. He was stabbed in the side and has cuts on his arm. So
did Soraya J. Bevis do it?
I don't know. It's very possible.
Also, what about Mr. PJ Black?
Yes, Mr. PJ Black has broke both his ankles and is out for an undetermined time after
a base jumping. What are you thinking, Paul Lloyd Jr.? What are you thinking?
He is the lone wolf. So
he's the dare wolf.
Well, dare wolf, lone wolf, all I know is he is sidelined unless they want to do a wheelchair gimmick.
And it means no denouement for the Worldwide Underground feud with the stars of AAA.
No offense, I think Lucha Underground could replace him really quick.
Thankfully. All right. Well, now on to the wrestling. There were 2 pay-per-views this weekend from TNA and Ring of Honor. We're going to start with a little TNA. We're going to start with Thursday night's show. Thursday night's show opened up with Lashley and EC3 having a little bit of verbal dealings.
I don't like it. I mean, EC3 is so above him on the mic, and Lashley is, I'm just better than you because I'm an MMA superstar, blah, blah, blah. It does not translate well, and it makes him seem like he hates the business.
Yeah, and then you had DJ Z going over on Eddie Edwards.
Disco Glacier, as I like to call him.
Hey, DJ Z does whoop ass, though.
I like him. It's just his entrance gear really reminds me of a Disco Glacier.
Then you had Maria and Cherry Bomb, or Allie as they're wanting to call her. Sad what they're doing with Cherry Bomb. Her old tag mate, is now a champion in Chikara. What?
Is that
Kimberly?
Yeah, Princess Kimberly?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think what they're doing with Cherry Bomb is they're just trying to do a slow build as the new face, because Gail Kim is going to have to bow out sooner than later.
Uh-huh.
So I think they're going to make her the next Gail Kim to an extent. Not saying she's going to be as good or have that kind of vibe, but they need a strong face, and they're doing the slow, I have to come up from the mud to the top build.
Well, Cherry Bomb's husband's a jobber anyway. Braxton Sutter.
Yeah, he reminds me of someone from the power plant from WCW that's thrown on TV that you're supposed to go for, because I have no idea who this dude is. But he has some ability, but no backstory, no vibe, no nothing.
He was an indie wrestler for a while. Then you have Moose and Miracle doing their little crap.
I'm a big fan of the Miracle, and I know we'll talk about this later, but Moose's performance on the pay-per-view actually made me a little happy.
Okay. Then you had the debut of Chelsea Green.
Forgettable.
Yeah, defeating Madison Rain. They had her going by a new ring name. I'm trying to still remember it. It's not... nothing
honestly,
memorable.
I forgot they were even there. It was very forgettable.
Yeah. Then Galloway and, Aaron Rex or Sandow.
Yeah.
Their little segment.
Yeah, it's sad to hear about Galloway's injury. I think they're going to be able to build off of that. He's a smart guy, so he's going to be able to build some big heat off that injury. I think it's going to be the best for him. Get some rest, rebuild, and he's going to have an angry heel run the right way with his injury, I believe.
And then you have the Decay Hardys segment.
I'm not a big fan of it. I never
with
have been.
Rosemary and Rebby Sky.
I know we'll talk about this later, but the pay-per-view kind of had me sold. But I mean, overall, I think it's been a bad build.
And then Gail Kim and Maria having their little.
Maria's great on the mic. I'm not sure why she's the champ at that time. Gail Kim, I think, is on her way out. I just don't think she has really much left to provide on TV.
And then you had Eli Drake and Tyrus, aka Brodus Clay.
Tyrus is a monster, but he still has not found his way out of WWE. I mean,
hence I still have the words Brodus Clay written on this paper.
Yeah, he needs the font to adapt to this.
And then from TNA we go to the pay-per-view, which somehow happened. Which actually was paid for. And it was actually not bad. It was not a bad pay-per-view.
It gave me hope with TNA again. It's been a couple years.
I told you it's been getting a little bit better recently. In the preliminary match, you had Jade going over on Sienna, a.k.a. Mia Yim, going over on Allison Kay, a.k.a. Sienna.
Yeah.
And then you had DJZ beating Trevor Lee for the X Division.
It was a great match. I mean, there wasn't a lot of build for it. I think it would be better if Helms would have been there, but I guess with the money issues, they didn't want to pay for his plane ticket.
I don't think they wanted to pay for Shane Helms.
Yeah. It would have made more sense if he was there because, you have the heel versus the semi-face, and it didn't feel right, but the match was great. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Then there was the 10-man Bound for Gold match, which the last two left were Eli Drake and Jesse Goddard.
Honestly, Rockstar Spud was the best part of the match.
Well,
I mean, him just acting like the scared little heel, trying to make friends throughout the match. I mean, he really made me enjoy the match when he got thrown out.
Him and Manders?
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Manders.
I forgot he was even in the match, honestly. He was in and out. And Grado, him getting immediately thrown out Santino style and just walking right back out. I'm a fan of Grado, but I think it was fun.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was won by Eli Drake.
Yeah, I think they're trying to build
that's a fact of life.
Yeah, he's like a heavy tweener. I don't really get his gimmick, but people like him.
He's a wannabe Miz, and he really reminds me of a cross between, if the crappy version of the Miz and Jeff Jarrett got put in a blender.
So he's a Hollywood slapnut, is what you're trying to say.
Si, senor. Next up, you had Moose going over the Miracle.
Good match, honestly. I was surprised. I mean, I've seen some Moose's work in Ring of Honor, which has been decent. I think it's his best match to date. I enjoyed it. I think the Miracle and him did some good work. I would have rather seen the Miracle go over, but I understand why. I don't think the whole high school football team went over too well. I think it was not really needed, but I understand why they did.
Yeah, of course, the debut of Cody.
I think it was a lackluster debut. Honestly, I'm a big fan of Cody. I'm a big fan of his wife. But, I don't think it was a very good debut. Not his fault. I just think it did. Yeah. The way they did it, the way it was received, I think it was lackluster.
All that build up for... Yeah. And then you had Sandow going over Eddie Edwards.
The lights went out. That's the best thing I can say about that match.
Yeah, that match sucked. Then you had the Hardys and Decay in the Great War.
If it was not for Rosemary and Crazy Steve, there's no way that match would have been decent. I mean, the Coast to Coast by Rosemary, which I'm still mad about the camera angle, why they did not have that set up better, or even bother with a replay. But the fact that Crazy Steve can sell a recycle bin in Sharpie that says rejuvenation or whatever it said, rebirth or something, and throw water, then all of a sudden you have Willow and all these other characters show up with Jeff Hardy. If it was not for Crazy Steve, that bit would never work.
You know who I think probably... I wonder if Willow was Shannon Moore or Shane Helms. I wonder if who was in the Willow costume. Because
that was Jeff Jarrett. That was Jeff.
It was still Jeff?
Yeah,
I know he is Willow the Wisp, but I'm saying him and Willow in the same match. It's almost like...
Well, the fact is that he changed backstage during the camera cut back to Matt Hardy. And then went... you had Jeff as Willow, and then they went back to Matt Hardy in Abyss. He went underneath the ring, got out of the get-up. You notice he never took the jacket off, and they went back to Jeff.
Okay.
It was just wardrobe change after wardrobe change. Is all that really was. I mean... I enjoyed the match. I didn't really care for the extended outside segment. I think it was a decent blow-off match, not what they really deserved.
Yeah. Then, of course, Gail Kim. Congratulations on your TNA Hall of Fame berth for whatever it's worth. But
I'm pretty sure her husband did the
catering, because, I mean, hell, Robert Irvine.
He looks like he's 70, but the dude got money, so...
Hey. And she went over on Maria.
I don't agree, but it is what
I understand it. And Lashley going over EC3.
Horrible
decision. Nah.
Especially after what I know would happen, so.
Yeah. And then from that, we're going to go on to another pay-per-view. And I know you have analyzed this one. Ring of Honor's All-Star Extravaganza 8.
Awesome show. If you're not an indie fan, then you're in a bad position in life. That's what I would say.
First match, or the prelims, Silas Young going over Evil and Ferreira.
Awesome match. Silas Young is an older guy, but he's a gritty, old-school kind of guy. It was a decent match, honestly, for a good opener.
Fish retaining the TV title.
Sick, stiff match. Fish is also an MMA guy, so if you like MMA, check him out. Great match.
Cabana and Castle are now your number one contenders for the tag team titles.
Great face win. I mean, I thought the match was excellent.
Dragon Lee going over on Kame Itachi.
Match of the night. I'm going to talk about one move, a Tree of the Woe on the outside where he was tied up on the post. Double foot stomp onto the outside. I've never seen it before. Went off great. It actually, Dragon Lee took his mask in Mexico, I believe, or it might have been Japan. I cannot remember each one. So they already had heat going into the match. Sick match. I was so. That match was the match of the night.
Then you had Kyle O'Reilly going over on Hangman Page.
It was a lackluster match. It was probably the worst match of the card, but you had Hangman Page take out Kyle O'Reilly at the end for the Bullet Club because Adam Cole demanded it.
Then you had Kushida, ACH, and Jay White defeating the Briscoes and Yano in the trios.
Yes. ACH is a big Dragon Ball Z fan. He came out in some Dragon Ball Z gear. It was an awesome match.
Then you had Jay Lethal going over Tetsuya Naito.
I was surprised Jay Lethal won, but it was back and forth. It was a sick match. Jay Lethal is one of the top wrestlers in the world.
And WWE really needs to consider signing Jay Lethal and giving him some good money.
I don't think they will, though. They're going to treat him as a cruiserweight.
He trained AJ Lee.
Yep, and he was trained by Samoa Joe. Yeah. They're not going to treat him as they're going to treat him as a cruiserweight, and he deserves more.
And then the next one, Adam Cole retaining the Ring of Honor Championship.
It was insane stuff. Michael Elgin did a flipping pile driver on Adam Cole off the top rope.
So he did a sick flip pile driver off the top rope, like a Canadian Destroyer.
Canadian Destroyer. I forget what Adam Cole calls it, like a Panama City pile driver. I forget exactly what it's called, but he did his finisher on him. It was a great match. I mean, they were move for move. Adam Cole retains. Adam Cole, baby. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. And then the Young Bucks winning the tag titles off of Bad Influence and
The Addiction. A lot of people call it the best ladder war in Ring of Honor history. I disagree. I think the Briscoes versus
Motor City Machine Guns. That was the other.
I disagree. I think Briscoes versus Steen and Generico were better. But Christopher Daniels was the workhorse of this match. He took so many nasty bumps. This man was busted open, bleeding everywhere. He even took a spot where he was thrown to the top rope onto the steel guardrail. I mean, it was a sick match. It was an awesome match. I still think the Dragon Lee match beat it, but it was the second match of the night.
Well, for me, what sounds interesting is, and I've got to see this for myself here, the sick flip or Canadian Destroyer
by
off
Michael
the top
Elgin?
rope.
Yes.
I've got to see that.
He basically jumps down and flips right into it. I mean, it was nasty. I mean, it was...
I know Michael Elgin is not a small guy.
Well, he could move, especially after his time in Japan. He's a different guy. He can move better.
That's where I know him from, is New Japan.
Yeah, he was actually part of the House of Truth before he went to Japan. He started Ring of Honor as a little crappy tag team, and he's already been a heavyweight champion. So.
Well, now from the independent ranks to the WWE. A little SmackDown. Got the Orton versus Wyatt segments. There were multiple segments there.
I didn't like any of it.
Surprisingly, I didn't like it, and I'm a big Bray Wyatt fan, but I did not like the segments.
Yeah, I understand they're trying to do the rat and the maze thing, but the ending didn't make sense.
Because Randy, it makes no sense for Orton, and it makes no sense really for Wyatt.
No, and it really made Rowan look like an idiot.
Thank you. My point exactly. Then you had the Ambrose segment.
Forgettable.
6-man tag match. Or 8-man tag match, I mean.
Yeah, it was a good match. I thought so. For an 8-man that was just thrown together, it's one of the best they've done in the last year, honestly.
Yeah. You know my thoughts on just throwing together 8-man matches.
Well, like I said, you need to check Shikara, because they have really cornered the market on that.
Difference between Shikara and WWE, at least they somewhat build theirs.
Yeah.
Then you had the Cena segment.
Forgettable.
Orton segment again.
Horrible.
They had Carmella and Natalya going over on Nikki Bella and Naomi.
I just like the fact that they brought up the fact of how the match ended last week.
Uh-huh.
How she just felt the need to take her out no matter what the cost. I actually was okay with the last week's match because of that. Because they actually acknowledged, I did something heelish and this is why. It's been a while since I've seen anyone do that. Yeah. And I accepted it.
Especially from the women.
Yeah, I thought it was one of the matches of the night, honestly.
Then you had, well, there were only a couple of matches anyway. Then you had The Miz and Ziggler. The hometown boys, I should say.
Yeah, well...
Because they're both from the same...
Cleveland. Yeah. Ziggler...
same area, I should say.
Yeah, well, they're best friends, honestly.
Yeah, in real life, yeah.
But Ziggler, did the emotional speech. It was one of the best promos he's done. There's a lot of rumors he's done. I didn't bring this up on the first segment because I wanted to save it for this, but he's been offered an agent role, or he might leave the company. Ric Flair actually brought that up on his podcast, that he's been offered an agent role. That's where they feel he is in his career. But there's no word what he's going to do. There's a lot of rumors he's leaving. So if he doesn't win the title, you might not see Ziggler for a while. I think he's better off going to the Indies, rebuilding himself, AJ Styles style. I'm not saying he's anywhere near his level, but you went from AJ Styles from TNA to IWGP champion to WWE champion. Yeah. I mean, look where he is now compared to where he was.
Even TNA Styles was high. Next up, of course, you had Styles segment.
I loved it.
Everybody loves AJ Styles segments.
He's the face that runs the place.
And he deserves to be. Then you had Styles going over Ambrose, which should happen all day, every day.
I completely agree.
And speaking of SmackDown, we have at least an early look at the No Mercy card. Styles, Ambrose, and Cena in the triple threat. I want Styles to win.
Yeah, Styles need to, because Cena wins it doesn't...
I'd rather Cena than Ambrose, but that's just me. Yeah. I'd rather Cena than Ambrose. I don't think Ambrose deserves it at all. But that's just
Ambrose wins it dirty and becomes a heel, I think it works. Cena winning it does not make sense. It actually hurts the championship.
Then you have Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss for the women's title.
I cannot wait for that match. I think it's going to steal the show.
In other words, hot steampunk redhead versus hot Harley Quinn.
They can both kick your ass.
And I'd let them do it all day. Next up, you have the Slater and Rhino tag team versus the Usos.
They're losing the titles. I can guarantee it. The Heath Slater thing, unfortunately, has bombed since they won the titles. Them keeping at this point makes no earthly sense. I think Rhino turns on Heath Slater, walks out, and that's the end of the tag team. And Heath Slater goes back to main
jobbing
event.
Again.
He goes back to the main event. He deserves more. I like the man, but there's only so much he can do with a bad storyline.
Yeah. And then you had Miz and Ziggler.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure Miz wins. I'm pretty sure Ziggler's either done or he's an agent.
And then the final match that's been confirmed is Orton and Wyatt.
And
the only one without a title on the line.
Yeah, I think it's the blow-off match. If they continue this or Wyatt loses, I don't know what to say anymore.
Yeah, because it would be horrible booking.
Because it's honestly, they should just cut the match and pretend it never happened.
Or have Wyatt just beat the tar out of him.
I think it would be a good time for Luke Harper to come back and destroy Orton. And then you can have an Orton... Harper feud,
and have Wyatt go higher up the card.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that makes sense because honestly, Orton's on a
done.
builder tier. He's not need to be a main event. He's not fighting
not anymore.
A Wyatt. He needs to be doing a Luke Harper. Now, I'm a big Luke Harper fan, but I think Luke Harper and Randy Orton can have some decent matches. They're both not good on the mic, and I think they can have some decent matches.
Then you have Raw last night. Starts off with the Reigns and Rusev. Ugh,
2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, I went and got something to eat and went to the bathroom.
Can I blow my braids out now?
Let's not pull a Kurt Cobain on the podcast.
I was saying with the Reigns Rusev deal. But yes, then you have the Brian Kendrick going over on TJ Perkins. I'm sorry, I think Perkins should be burying Kendrick. But that's just me.
I like it because it's building a storyline which they have not done since they debuted. It's solidifying a heel, solidifying a face, and there's something to fight for now. They have not had that since day one. Since they debuted on Raw. It's smart booking.
It's just I don't like the Brian Kendrick. I can't lie.
He is a strong heel, and he's the only guy that can do it right now.
Then you have the Rollins segments.
I think it fell flat.
It did. Then you had Braun Strowman. What the hell?
Yeah, horrible segment.
Nobody cares. And then you had the Jericho.
I loved it.
Yes, actually, it has not fallen flat.
Yeah, they're as far as I know, they're good friends.
They're both Canadian. They're both, in that respect.
Yeah, they're actually good friends from what I understand, and they're just having fun, and you can see it.
Then you had El Generico and Titus O'Neil. Why that match was even on the card?
I think they're trying to rebuild Titus O'Neil because now he has a brand of clothes and all this other stuff.
Then why did he get defeated by El Generico?
Well, I mean, it was a throwaway match. I don't think it helped either guy. I was more confused.
Both guys.
I was more confused what was going on and why it was happening. So I think it was a time filler.
Yeah. Then you had the Bullet Club going over on the Golden Truth.
They're trying to rebuild them, and at this stage, they really need to bring a third man into the group.
Who, the Bullet Club?
Yes.
My question is, why did they have them lose to the New Day? Made no sense.
It was stupid. I really think...
at the end, they had them beat up Goldust.
Well, Goldust is on his way out.
Goldust is old.
He brought on Twitter, new roads, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of rumors he's
maybe he's going to TNA.
God, I hope not. I think it's just time for him to either become an agent or... I mean, I'm a fan of him. I mean, I've
been a fan of Goldust for a long time.
But I just don't think in his stage of the career it really helps anybody.
And then you had the New Day going over on Jericho.
Yeah, but it was dirty to an extent. My favorite segment, because we didn't really talk about the whole talking segment where Woods made a point, when's the last time you jumped over everything? Anything, Owens. And Owens took the time to jump over Woods twice. Like, I jumped over something. That just proves how much of a heel he is, how much mic skills he has.
And how much athleticism he actually has.
Exactly. I can jump over something.
He's Afrophatic.
But it's just little things like that is why I think he's a better champion than Rollins. Because Rollins in that instance would have just curb stomped him or did something like that. But him to take the time to remember something from a segment and implement that into the match just proves how good he is.
Kevin Steen is a very good worker, and the Afrophatic term, thank you TV Tropes.
I pretend to know what you're talking about, but let's continue.
It's a website. Look it up, tvtropes.org. All right.
Maybe one day.
Then you had Tony Nese going over Rich Swann. Why job Rich Swann, and why have those two in a match against each other?
It was a good match.
I want them to both go over somebody. I like Tony Nese. I like Rich Swann.
I want you to look at it this way. Last week we talked about how they're not building heels, they're not building storylines. You have Tony Nese tired of not being used correctly, tired of having to hear people how they like to dance and have fun. Granted, Rick Swann has mic skills, he has charisma, and I'm tired of hearing about his dead parents. And they don't have faith in this man. Well, it pisses me off to no end.
It pisses me off that they're having to play second fiddle to somebody like the Brian Kendrick, who's old and washed up.
Well, he is a veteran, and they want to build the title to an extent. They have faith in Brian Kendrick and TJP. They want the other people to prove themselves.
Well, because TJ Perkins proved it in TNA.
And Ring of Honor and Japan. Same thing with, a lot of guys. But Rick Swann, my problem is they're not treating him as they have faith in him, and it really irritates me. The man has proved himself with groups like Ronin, with Johnny Gargano and Chuck Taylor. He's done 1,000 things. I've seen this man wrestle a match with a bucket of chicken and get over in the match. He refused to let go of the chicken and beat the hell out of somebody. It was one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. The man can get over with anything, and they treat him. I
almost forgot about that. The bucket of chicken.
Yeah, it was an FPW, Florida Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
I have to remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact name of the organization.
With a bucket of chicken. I think I remember that.
It's just insane the way they treat the man. I really hope in the coming weeks they treat him better. I know a lot of the talent with the Cruiserweight division is going to be in NXT. Which is good. That means you're still getting work.
I've seen Cedric Alexander and Lindsay Dorado. We'll get around to that in a second. Mm-hmm. Then you had Sheamus and Cesaro. Can they please stop that?
Yeah, I think they're going to cut it within 2 weeks.
Yeah, please, dear God, do. And then the main event, which I'm shocked Raw did not make a bigger deal of, and so are you, I know for a fact. Sasha Banks and Charlotte.
Well, it proves a changing of the guard because it's not a bra and panties match. It's not a stripper on the pole match. You have two women as a main event on Raw, and I've never heard of that. They've never done it, and they treated it like a normal thing.
Historic, man.
It was great. I think it was the match of the night, honestly.
And then we'll do a quick rundown of NXT and Lucha Underground, your Wednesday shows. NXT, Dillinger going over Ty Dillinger going over Angelo Dawkins as the first match.
I do not like how they treated Dawkins on commentary.
They've never treated Dawkins well.
He deserves better. He's a great worker. He has a great gimmick. The crowd loves him, and they treat him as a jobber, and I do not like that.
And then you had Bobby Roode come in after that match.
Yep, and you're going to have the new tag team.
The Perfect
10, I believe they call it. Or the glorious, perfect or glorious 10 or something.
Glorious perfection or something like that.
Perfect.
They're gonna debut in the Dusty Classic.
I think it's gonna be great. I think they're gonna be a great comedy mix.
Yeah.
It's gonna be very enjoyable.
Yeah. Samoa Joe, then
I love that
beating the crap out of a couple of jobbers.
I did not know which one was. They were twins. They even had the same shoulder tape.
Twins.
Yeah. I love the gimmick he's doing right now where he's like, I want my title back, this is what you're doing, or I'm going to destroy every new guy you have.
And then a surprise match. And I thought this, and why I say it's a surprise is because it was surprisingly a good match. Ember Moon over Mandy Rose.
I don't know why that was a surprise.
Mandy Rose debut. It was the fact that Mandy Rose actually looked passable in the ring was what surprised me.
Well, they mixed very well. I mean, you can tell the Ember Moon carried her to an extent, but they clicked very well.
But she didn't really need as much carrying as I thought she would. Is what I'm getting
I'd say
at.
about 10%.
She actually held her own in a match.
It was a great match. I mean, it was one of the top of the night.
And then the Authors of Pain going over another jobber team.
I'm tired of them. They need to do something new. They're worse than anything.
Snore match between Asuka and Liv Morgan.
Yeah, it was a waste.
And then
both people.
The main event, Kenta going over on Lindsay Dorado. Good match.
It was awesome. And then you had Austin Aries run in to do the heelish thing and
crap
run
out
away.
Yeah, and then run away. And then you had, finally, Lucha Underground. The Cueto segments, Sexy Star and Cortez Castro.
You can't say enough about Lucha Underground.
Dario Cueto.
Yeah, you can't say enough about Lucha Underground. Their production value, their storyline, the backstage segments are the top of the line. WWE can't even touch it.
And then you had Ricochet or Prince Puma going over Sinestra de la Muerte.
Great match. And then you have the same character dying later in the episode.
Yep. Then you had Pentagon Dark going over on Cortez Castro.
You had a little segment in the office, and he comes out there and gets completely destroyed.
Gets the crap kicked out of him. And then finally, the main event, which I don't think there will ever be a denouement to, as I said earlier in the show. Worldwide Underground going over on Drago, Aerostar, Phoenix, and Sexy Star.
Spot fest, but very awesome.
Well, guys, unfortunately, we have run out of time tonight. You can find us on Twitter at Cast of Champions. O is substituted for 0. A 0 is substituted for that. So it's Cast 0F Champions. Also, you can find us on Boldcastify and Bcastify Sports for the sports channel. Also, you can find us on Twitter or on Facebook at Boldcastify and on Instagram and any other social networking site you can think of. Also, I already said Bcastify Sports. But yes, for next time, this is Mark at BCB Markpedia.
Robert Slacking Cracking. Of course, we got a new show coming up.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start doing some video game shows.
Yes.
Boldcastify.
Boldcastify will be getting into the video game console. That will be coming up shortly. We'll have more information on that in the coming weeks.
You've been listening
to the Cast of Champions
on the Boldcast Radio Network.
This is a Boldcastify Sports production.
Do not follow the buzz.